Greetings, I'm Cam Miller, and this is Team 99, a look back at the 1999 Cincinnati Reds on the 25th anniversary of their improbable season. I've had such a great response, and thank you all for your comments and for emailing me. And remember, if you have a memory or story you'd like to share of the 1999 club, email me at riverfrontcam@gmail.com. That's riverfrontcam@gmail.com, and I'll be reading them throughout the season. This is Team 99, Episode 3, The Fight is There. In 1995, the Reds started 0-6, and Barry Larkin, that season's NL MVP, called a team meeting. After an 0-3 start in 1999, Larkin was asked if a team meeting was in order, and Larkin responded, quote, "In 1995, it was lack of effort, and that's not the case this year," unquote. So Larkin was right. In fact, it might have been that the club was trying too hard. Pressing with the sudden sense that they might actually compete, and they were in it to win it. In the first three losses, pitching was obviously the issue, more specifically walks. They had issued 23 of them. So hopes were high that they would turn it around as they headed out on a 5-game road trip, 3 in St. Louis and 2 in Chicago. And as they did so, Denny Neagle was sent to Indianapolis on a rehab assignment. So Pete Harnisch was set to take the ball in Game 1 of this road trip in St. Louis, and he pitched like the ace the Reds needed. He went the distance, a complete game, 6-hit shutout, and doing so in 105 pitches with the Reds winning 3-0. They were finally in the win column. So the game was scoreless in the 7th when Sean Casey continued to swing a hot bat, belting a solo home run. The next batter, Greg Vaughn, followed suit, crushing a pitch to left field. Back-to-back jacks. So 2-0 in the 8th, and Pokey Reese got in on the solo home run act, and it was 3-0, your final score. The first Reds win. So the bullpen wasn't needed for Pete Harnisch's masterpiece, but the following day it was, and once again, it was a struggle. With the game tied 2-2 in the 8th, John Hudak gave up a 2-run single to Eric Davis. Yes, that Eric Davis of the St. Louis Cardinals. I cringe when I say that. Which proved to be the game winner, 4-2 St. Louis. The Reds, however, won the rubber game 4-2 before heading to Chicago for a quick 2-game series. They would split these 2 games, but in the first contest, the Reds hit 4 home runs, including 2 by Mike Cameron. You remember the guy that, the great glove, no stick? So the Reds sit at 3-5 and come home for a long 9-game homestand with the Pirates, Mets, and Astros. But on the Thursday, the April 15th off day before the homestand, the Reds decided to shake up the bullpen by trading John Hudak to the Braves for Mark Wohlers. Wohlers had 112 saves over his 9-year Braves career, but he was off to a rocky start in '99, walking 6 in just 2/3 of an inning. Control was a problem, and both Wohlers and the Reds thought it was more of a mental problem than a physical one. After all, he could still throw 100 miles an hour. Here's Wohlers.
I think both parties, myself and the Reds organization believe that, I can overcome this and get back to do what I was once capable of doing.
So the following day, the Reds are home, and things got off to a great start in the homestand when Hal Morris delivered a game-winning walk-off double. A comeback win for the Reds that impressed Reds skipper Jack McKeon. Here's Jack.
It was real nice the way the guys battled back, and scrapped and battled, and some great relief pitching from Danny Graves and some clutch hitting by, the pinch hitters.
But the fun was short-lived. The Reds would lose 2 of 3 to the Pirates, 2 of 3 to the Mets, but then did take 2 of 3 from the Astros to salvage a 4-5 homestand before they would head off to Philly and Atlanta. They stood 7-10 and 4 games back on April the 25th. But the Reds continued to battle. 3 of the 5 losses on the homestand were 1-run. And although he had a rough first outing for the Reds, giving up 4 runs in 4 innings, Denny Neagle made his Reds debut, coming off the injured list, a game the Reds would win 7-4. The Reds hadn't had a winning month in April for 4 years, and 1999 looked no different. And what about the Reds' prize acquisition in the offseason, Greg Vaughn, who, like the Reds, was off to a slow start? But it was evident that Greg Vaughn was the leader of this team, because even in April, with all of the struggles, he saw what this club was capable of.
We're taking our lumps right now, in April. But I'm a guy that says, let's fix it now. Let's not wait till June or July. I think I'm trying to make too much happen right now and maybe putting a little bit of pressure on myself, going out there and saying, hey, they need me to do this. I have to hit this home run. As long as those saying, as long as I put the hay in the barn, that hard work's going to be there and it's going to come out. You can't look for all your results in April. Do you want to win the batting title and the home run title in April? Or do you want to put your team in positions to win? Last year, I wasn't out there trying to hit home runs. I wasn't out there trying to do anything that I wasn't capable of doing. All I was trying to do is do whatever it took to help our team win. If you see me, I never sit down during the game. I'm constantly walking. Come on, let's go. We can do it. We got them. Even though if I'm not hitting or what, you know what I mean? Every day it's going to take somebody new.
So the leadership of Greg Vaughn really was what set the tone for this club, and that would be the case throughout the season. And as we continue this episodic journey, you are going to see just how much of a difference he made. Let's get to an email. This one comes from Daniel Lanzolata. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I did not. Cam, I'm so glad you were doing this. I was born in 1984, a lifelong Reds fan, but didn't become hooked on every single day diehard baseball followings until the middle of that unforgettable Reds summer of 1997. Willie Green led the team in homers. Brett Boone was sent down for Aaron Boone, and my all-time favorite Red, Chris Steins, hit .348 after a midseason trade. Okay, it wasn't special, but I caught the bug. In 1998, I dug in even deeper, relishing in the growing pains of the youth movement. Thankfully, Jim Bowden was too restless to rebuild the way we think of it today, getting to work on fantasy baseball swaps that you highlighted in your first episode. It's been hard for me to write this email about what I remember best from this team, because what I remember is almost everything. I can recall dozens of games from that year with more clarity than just last season, which was pretty memorable in its own right. The players, the beats, the headlines, and the ever-growing buzz and adoration fill me with today. No matter what any Cincinnati team accomplishes in the future, those guys will always be my favorite. The old man in the dugout certainly left his mark. Marty's pregame interview with Jack McKeon was can't-miss radio. I can still see the cigar smoke through the airwaves. He had the best quality of what a big league manager can possess. He knew it wasn't about him. A manager might swing a few times a season, but he credits his players, never too high or low one day to the next. He felt like a throwback, but he was also ahead of his time. His bullpen management stuck out the most, and man, those numbers look wild compared to today's game. The two closers, Williamson and Graves, trading off the ninth, Sullivan managing double the role of a setup man would today, 300-plus innings between the three of them. For that year it worked. The bullpen was easily the best in baseball and set the stage for dramatic wins all season long. The rotation had Harnish, already a patented 90s Reds rehab success, as a wisecracking fan favorite. Nagel coming in strong as the stakes grew. The Scotch tape parade of 3 or 4 to 5 guys that finally filled in with the Juan Guzman and unlikely heroes Steve Paris and Ron Vallone. It's amazing that a rotation with those names had the 4th best starting pitcher ERA in the NL. Of course, with most beloved ball clubs, it's the everyday guys you remember. When comparing rosters, maybe what I loved most about that team, as with most of the Bowden era, they were deep. Bowden just kept loading up with talent, particularly athletes in the outfield. Vaughn and Cameron, of course, two of the all-time great one-season Reds, but Michael Tucker, Jeffrey Hammonds, and Dimitri Young, rotating in and out, were a force to be reckoned with. Just about everyone had a stretch that helped carry the team. Depth was everywhere. Casey was the breakout star at the plate, but everyone in the lineup contributed offensively. Everyone had either 20 home run power or 30 stolen base speed. No one was a liability with the glove, outside of Taubensee. But Larkin, Reese, Cameron up at the middle was a thrill ride. Reese in 99 had the most dominant fielding year I've seen as a fan, and they've had a second baseman known for highlights since. Overall, it was the depth and balance that made them surprise contenders. Finishing 4th in the NL in runs scored, 4th in runs allowed, they weren't just a cute underdog story, they were a damn good team. But were relentless, never losing more than 4 games in a row. They went over 120 games without getting shut out from the end of April until game 163. As for me, I was in the prime of my life at the ballpark. I turned 15 that summer. Quote, back in my day, end quote, a parent would drop you off a short walk from the stadium with a $10 bill. $3 walk-up, top 6 seats, a few bucks for a hot dog and a frosty malt, and you're down in the blue seats when the ushers abandoned their post after the 5th inning. We went close to 30 games that year. The Reds had 11 walk-off wins. I'd love to know where that stands in team history, and I vividly remember being in the stands for 4 of them. 15 is also prime, quote, never leaving early no matter what age, end quote. I know you'll get all of this, but the beats that stand out. The slow start and the most famous players-only meeting in Reds history called by Greg Vaughn, 24-12 win on Wednesday afternoon in Colorado, I listened to that game bouncing around my bedroom as they put up a video game box score that I still have clipped somewhere today. Blast off. 8-game winning streak into June was nice. The 10-game winning streak was an all-timer. 10 wins, all against first-place teams, ending with the Reds overtaking the Astros for first place with their last victory. Ron freaking Vallone outdueling Randy Johnson at Synergy as part of a one-hit shutout during the streak. It doesn't get better. The Big Road Machine. Their 51-30 road record was better than almost everyone else's home record. Home run barrage in September. I was at my mom's surprise 40th birthday on September 4th. I spent most of the night in the bathroom or tucked away in a corner, plugged in my little sports radio, listening to the Reds blast 9 home runs. Pure joy. That whole month was a pennant race that really can't happen the same way in the supersized playoffs. The Astros, Mets, Reds was a brutal clash to the end. Greg Vaughn and Nagel delivered an offseason promise with MVP, ace finishes. Me, if I wasn't at the game, I was getting carted over to family members who had cable to watch the season go down to the wire. I wasn't as excited about the possibility of making the playoffs as I was caught up in the joy of this team, and never wanted it to end. The huge win to start off the Houston road trip, followed by stomach-clenching drudge in Milwaukee, the Magic slipping away into a 6-hour rain delay. I had to go to Game 163. There was a mad dash to the Ticketmaster kiosk at the local Kroger. No luck. My best friend calls a couple hours before with tickets from an uncle. Green seats. Everyone on their feet from the first pitch. A vent from above kept dripping on my shoulders the whole game. That Alfonso home run, just over Hammeren's outstretched arm. Winter coming fast. I was a frequent teenage caller to Mark Amazon for a couple summers there. Quote, Devious Dan, unquote, if anyone happens to remember Bratty Kid hogging airtime. And I may have cracked a bit on the 1360 homer the day after. I hadn't been following baseball long enough to know much, but I knew I'd never see these guys together again the same way. It doesn't really end there. A couple months later, Ken Griffey Jr. demands a trade, eventually narrowing his list down to one team. Are you kidding me? Culturally, Jr. was as close as MLB had and would have since Michael Jordan. It was like LeBron's first decision in reverse. Coming back home. I was young enough to believe something like that wasn't too good to be true. And it all happened, just like for Game 163. I had to get a ticket, somehow, some way. For good measure, the Bearcats had the number 1 team and the number 1 player in the country, and the national championship was the same night as Junior's opening day debut. Kenyon Martin broke his leg. Opening day rained out in a tie. The magic was over. And while there have been plenty of flashes, Hall of Fame players, and a few exhilarating seasons to enjoy the last 25 years, it will never really be like that for me again. Thanks for your work. Can't wait to listen to the show. Dan. Dan, wow, what an incredible email. Thank you so much. And you did your homework, man. Those stats, spot on. Very, very nice. I thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. I try to explain this as well as I can when I do lectures or I'm talking to groups or even when I'm on the infamous X Twitter social media page. I try to explain to people that it's not about what happens at the end, it's about the journey. And I know that's cliche, but this is another case in point where 15-year-old Dan is a lifelong fan and he's in the prime of his teenage years where he's, kind of figuring it out baseball. That's a great age to where there's that enthusiasm and excitement that you can never really recapture again, because you're not going to think of the Reds as a 35 to 40-year-old person as you do when you're 15. There are going to be kids right now, today, that are going to have, I remember when I was at the game when Ellie made this crazy catch and I became a lifelong fan, or I was at the game when TJ Friedel robbed a home run, or I was at the game when Spencer Steer hit a grand slam. Baseball is so unique that you get to have those over the course of a summer. And when you're a kid, summer is everything. Baseball in Cincinnati is a magical experience, and the 25th anniversary of this 99 team is case in point. Thanks, Dan, for the email, and thank you guys for listening. I cannot wait till episode 4. Coming up, we're starting to get to the end of April, beginning of May. We're starting to see the gears of the Big Road Machine turn, and I can't wait to dive in deeper. I'm Ken Miller. Thanks for listening.